Okay, we are live on our program. Thank you so much. We have we have people greeting us already. Thank you so much. Welcome to our live broadcast. And today, I've got with me Mr. Roland Stockton, all the way from Netherlands. Thank you so much. If you're watching us right now, I want you to like this page. I want you to share this page. I want you to tell your friends that we're live all the way from the United Kingdom. For me, you can see I'm all decked up. The weather is a bit cold here. Well, not cold in the house, but of course, I'm going out soon after this broadcast. So I just need to get myself ready. I got Mr. Roland here. And today, we have a fascinating conversation that I know that each and every one of you who works in the security environment will be quite interested in. Reason being that gone are the days 50, 60 years ago where you stick to one job. After sticking to that job, you retire, you leave that job, and you start your gardening job or taking care of the grandchildren. Nowadays, many people are actually existing the job they're in and becoming entrepreneurs, starting their own little business. And that's the only reason why we're able to talk on this kind of platform, because somebody took the bold step to say, you know what, I'm going to organize or put together the ideas in my brain about having secured meetings. And here we are using a platform. So it is good for me. It is good for you. It's good for humanity. If people, entrepreneurs, go out there, do their little thing, put their little ideas together, and bring a program that we could use. Because you're watching me wherever you are now, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Kenya, in the UK, in Russia, wherever you're watching me from, that's because somebody took the bold step. And there's a lot of innovations that we need, especially within the security environment, to make the world a safer place to be in. So if you're watching me right now, I want you to like this page, I want you to share this page, and I want you to tell your friends that we are live on LinkedIn, live on Facebook, and live on Twitter. So thank you so much. And one thing I want you to do for me, because I just don't want to be talking, I want you to throw the question back at Mr. Roland. We've got him here on the hot seat. I want you to ask him those questions that is important. But more importantly, I want you to tell us where you're calling from or where you're watching us from, so that we could at least acknowledge your presence. I could see we have people watching us live, so I'm very pleased for that. So, Mr. Roland, let me throw the first. What is your view with regard to, you've been in the security industry for up to 50 decades now? Are you seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly of it? What would be your advice to anybody that is either graduating from school, that is looking at going into either the military, going into the police? Because people are now saying, go into the military, get a little bit of skills. I know in the UK, you could do 5 years, you could do 10 years. You don't need to do 50 years or 50 years to retire. And then use the skills you've learned in there to become expert, consultant, speaking on TV, writing books like you do, teaching, because you learned a lot of skills working in the military. What would be your advice to anyone watching us right now that is looking at venturing into the security world?
Okay. So good afternoon, Temi. Good afternoon, everybody. Let's just assume that you are an entrepreneur and you want to set up your own business. That's how you're going to make money, working for yourself and not for other people. Though, of course, you can work for other people to learn all the different types of skills for your particular niche that you may be interested in. And when I said that word, your particular niche, we'll touch on this a little bit later. I'll keep that thought in my mind. It's because the security industry now, it's no longer a man in a raincoat with a camera taking pictures of a husband or a wife doing something illicit, you might say. Yeah. That's the old school Private Eye from the movies and so on and so forth. Philip Marlowe and so on and so forth. Those days are long, long gone, and really, they were only in the razzmatazz fictional world of Hollywood. So, if you were going to set up initially, and surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, because TRAZ has a wide portfolio of lessons, but we actually have a series of lessons on how to set up your own business, and then lessons learned from people at the 1 and 2 year points who've actually set up their own businesses in different areas, but they're generic lessons learned. And if you were interested in setting up a business to begin with, it doesn't matter what the business is. The ground rules are the same for everybody, of course, with national differences about legislation and so on. But we do have a series of lectures on that. And if interest is shown, just get on to TRAZ, and you'll see the email come up, and that can be arranged. But initially, as with everything, it's the paper war. And you really need to make sure that either you, if you're that way inclined, or you know somebody who's gifted in this area, they say sort out your initial documentation. And without this documentation, you really wouldn't be able to function as a company. And when we're talking about documentation, thinking about business registration documents, for example, corporate bylaws and operating agreements, what's required, what you need to comply with. An important thing is to actually think about your mission statement and core values. This will let the world know who you are, what you're going to do, but more importantly, it will make you focus on who you are and what you want to do, to identify your aims and objectives, your goals, and so on and so forth. So think about that. And then think about organizational structure and roles. And let me tell you, everybody, when you first start, if you are an entrepreneur, okay, what do you need? Well, you need the skills required for whatever it is you're going to sell. If you're going to bake cakes, you know how to bake cakes. If you're going to be repairing cars, you need to be a mechanic, and so on and so forth. After that, of course, what does a business need? Critical for any business in its early days is marketing and sales. If nobody knows you're there, nobody will see you. And if nobody can hear you, your salespeople are out there, business development people, creating markets, opportunities, customers for you, then you will fall by the wayside. Again, looking at this initial first steps, and it's not the glamorous world you're thinking of, I know, but we all have to do the foundations, build a firm foundation on a rock, not on the sand, as they would say. So think about legal and compliance documents, contracts and agreements, insurance policies. Very, very important, because by the nature of the work, people may take you to court if you've stepped out of the parameters of what you're allowed to do, or you may be injured in the course of your work. So different types of insurance policy. You may also need to have a license as a private investigator, for example, an accreditation. What else would you need? Compliance policies for local bylaws and things. And then, of course, health and safety documentation. Because if you're teaching, say you're teaching in a security company, one of the courses you're going to run, say, is ladies self-defense. It's a topic that we in TRAZ actually are going to put online and teach down the road. We already have it being created. But suppose one of your students gets injured whilst you're training, okay? Or suppose one of your students said, I was attacked and what you taught me didn't work. Okay, so that's a bit of a legal minefield. I'm sure the legal eager beavers would love to be wrestling with that particular case. So all these sort of areas to begin with, that groundwork, yeah, it's not what you were thinking, but it needs to be done. So fortunately, with people like Temi, for example, who's an entrepreneur, he's got a wide range of experience, and some of my colleagues have their own businesses too, and they can offer very valuable advice. One of the things we always say to people when they're starting up in a business is become a student of a mentor. There will be people out there who will be very, very happy, like Temi, for example, to coach you, to show you how to avoid the pitfalls and so on and so forth. So initially, if you are thinking of being an entrepreneur, do the groundwork, do the homework, and then you're ready to do all the more interesting things. Okay.
Thank you so much. And I think you've actually hit it on the nail when you talked about the key requirement, the steps of setting up security outfit, regardless of which country you are. And I could see people are watching us live and quite interested in what we're talking about, because there's a lot of our colleagues out there who have done 35 years, in the security outfit, different security outfit, whether it be fire, whether it be paramilitary, whether it be military, whether it be even security service, proper security services, which is national security. And they say, where do I go next? Which skills do I have? Do I really have a skill? They're asking yourself. So if there are skills that you know from your experience, what skill will you say, if you've done 5 years, 6 years, you should be building up or looking at building up before you actually leave the service that you're living? One of the things we really talked about was timekeeping, being a man of your word in security, having eye for detail. Please expand on that, please, if you could.
Okay, yeah. Again, going back to this, we're not being the James Bond yet with the Parabellum 9mm Luger stuck in the waistband and a pretty girl holding your hand and a fast Aston Martin DB5 car. Okay. We're not looking at that yet. Okay.
No.
So the other skills that you would need to have, again, they're skills that you will pick up in lots of different areas. If you're at college, university, if you're working in an office, these sorts of skills. But you would need to be able to develop a curriculum and be able to write a document or have somebody who can do that for you. Because not everybody can do everything. There are some people, very few and far between, the Leonardo da Vinci's of this world, who can do everything. So if you are not very good in a certain area, okay, then you will need somebody who can do that paperwork for you. What do they call it in English? Wordsmithy. Okay, yes. Somebody who can create the documents for you, and it gets very, very easy nowadays with certain tools at our disposal. You need to be aware of training standards, best practices, code of conduct for trainee and trainers, and an important area, a really, really important area for you, and I'll touch on this later, is risk assessment and management plans. I'm going to talk a little bit later. It depends which way Temi wants me to go, and of course your questions. I'll touch on that a little later because I have a sort of outline in my head in areas to cover. But you really, really need to be aware of how to do a risk assessment. That's critical, and project management and the like. So these are really, really important things for you, and how to develop SOPs and what they call WI. So everybody knows SOPs. It's always in the movies, standard operating procedures, which is big picture. And then you've got WI, or work instructions, which is really getting down to the nitty gritty. So you need to be able to develop those and work on those and have an eye for attention to detail. Now, there's lots of different areas where you need to have the right skill set. And of course, some of these skills you could pick up in the military, for example, depending on which military and what you do in the military, because there are lots of different fields in the military, and some of the professions in the military aren't really relevant to what you'll be doing as a security company, for example. Again, in the police, there's different roles in the police, which really would be of little use to you in a security industry field. And that may surprise some of you. But skills that you would need are situational awareness. And here we're talking about street cred. I think I'm showing my age a little bit now. I don't know what they call it nowadays, Debbie. Street cred, situational awareness.
Yeah.
It's still the same. Okay, I need to watch more movies. That's obvious. Yeah, I need to keep up to date with all the young folks. Okay, so street cred, common sense, everybody. But an important thing is you need to be able to observe. And one of the things you've got to be able to do is not only observe, but have quite a good understanding of human behavior, dynamics in organizations, the flow in teams, and so on and so forth. So you need to be a little bit of a psychiatrist or a psychologist. You need to be a little bit of a priest or a religious person, you know, and have this understanding of people and being able to listen. So these are key skills. Other skills, of course, might be needed. Driving, of course. You would need to learn to drive. And what you need to learn to drive, well, it all depends what vehicles are available and what you might be doing. Maybe camera skills, not necessarily saying you're going to win the prize for National Geographic Wildlife Photo of the Year, but you need to be able to operate a camera and a variety of cameras and all that goes with them. You need to be aware of electronic tools that you could use, drones, bugs if they're allowed in your country, so on and so forth. So these are areas where you need to be familiar with certain things. As I'm going to come on to it a little bit later, from my own experiences when I was in charge of an intelligence section in the military doing IS stuff, the different skill sets I was looking for in people to have in my team. And you may be surprised, I didn't want Rambo. I did not want Rambo in the work we were going to do because it's okay in the movies, but that's in the movies, okay? So a certain reality check is needed. Other sort of skill sets, I'll touch on in a little while, but the basics are computer literate, student human behavior, and really being able to watch and listen. And again, we're developing this this lesson in TRAZ. It's about being a chameleon. And what is a chameleon? A chameleon is a creature, as you all know, looks like a lizard, and it adapts to its behavior. So you need to be, and in the military, when we were teaching resistance to interrogation courses and so on and so forth, we used to call it the grey man, how to not stand out in the crowd, how to be as if people will see you and they don't even know you're there. So to be unobtrusive, to be the grey man. These are some areas which would be useful, of course. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And actually, you did touch on a lot of issues there that I think our viewers will be quite pleased with. If you're watching us right now, you could like this page, share this page, and tell your friends we're live. You could share this page on your WhatsApp, you know, and actually create a watching page on Facebook. I want you to tell people that we're live and tell us where you're watching from. But before we go further, you talked earlier about being mentored, and actually did mentor a young gentleman who, you know, in the country where he was, I don't want to give out his identity, there were no jobs for security people, and he just finished his criminology. He didn't know what to do. And I said, you know what? In this modern age, you need zero budget to be able to run a company. You can actually run your company with zero budget. I said, impossible. How will you do that? I said, you know what? Go online, do this. And today, you know, he's smiling to the bank because he linked up with somebody, or he went on LinkedIn, linked up with somebody, and they gave him they worked in partnership with him to be the sole distributor of a particular brand of security system, where he gets his cut for every time that that product is being used. And he took it, he ran around it into government department, institution, people buying into it, and as they're buying it, he's getting his cut. So when we're talking about security, security is not just about you having millions of pounds. You could actually just need just your brain to be able to do, what you do. So what are the major challenges that people face when establishing a security company, and how can they overcome it from your experience?
Major challenges in establishing a security company, Temi, would be let me say, we'll look at it from another point of view. Say you want to set up a restaurant in the high street of your local town.
Yes.
So what would you do? Well, you'd walk down the high street of your local town, and you would have a look, and you say, there's a Chinese restaurant, there's a Turkish restaurant, there's an Indian restaurant, a Greek restaurant, so on and so forth. So the first thing is you need to identify the competition and what the competition is doing. Yes. And then to say, well, I can bring something unique to the marketplace. Yeah. And this is what you need to have. You need to be able to offer something that isn't already being offered. Now, in the security industry, of course, there are lots of different areas where you could excel in providing a service. It's wide open now. For example, you could be saying you could make a study, and you can do a lot of now with the internet, YouTube, and all the other things. You can learn quite a lot. Of course, learning things academically is not quite the same as learning them practically. So it has to be a balance between, I used to call them, I still do call people Facebook experts, who will suddenly come on and they'll give all these wonderful ideas, which I know would never, ever survive in the real world. So you have to be a little bit careful what you're watching and put into practice. Learn the practical things, learn the theoretical. But identify an area that you're really, really keen on that isn't being provided, and then that is your goal, that is your road to success. What else do we need to do for mentoring? Or we've already touched upon it, really. You need to tap into the experience of those who've trod this path before you. Now, it could be that they will say, we can have a partnership to begin with, or you work with me to begin with and learn these skills. And there are lots of different skills that could be needed. Let me give an example. When I was in the military, one of the things we would do in the intelligence world is what we call in preparation of the battlefield. It's put down as IPB. And what is IPB? Basically, IPB can be very complicated, of course, but it's being able to look at a map or a piece of ground and being able to read that ground. Now, it could be a neighborhood, it could be an urban environment. So you're looking at all the different aspects of an urban environment. It could be a rural environment where you're looking at, let me give an example. How thick are these trees in this forest? What's the spacing between the trees in this forest? Would tanks and armored vehicles be able to get through this forest, or will they have to use tracks? If they have to use tracks, well, that's where we can put ambushes, or engineers can go in and deny mobility. It's being able to gather information, extrapolate from that intelligence, and working on it. So again, we go back to that being streetwise situational awareness. but a lot of different skills coming into play. The mentoring, yes, the mentoring. If you are going to go into the military, then you must have an end game in place, and going to that part of the military that's going to be useful to you. Military police, for example, would be a good grounding, because you've got the benefits of learning police work in a military environment, of course, but also doing military things as well. So it's like double-hatted. Again, forensics, if that's an area where you may be wishing to work. Surprisingly, in TRAZ, we have a lot of lessons on forensics, and I often think it's a shame that young policemen, young constables, and so on, are not introduced at an early stage in their careers to the forensics world, an awareness at least. And again, it's an area where you might want to consider. But I would be looking for being able to solve puzzles, everybody. And you're looking at me now and you're thinking, what's he on about? When I was choosing my guys to be in the section with me, when we were going to go away for 6 months deployment to do internal security operations, who did I want in my section? I didn't need guys who were working out in the gym every day, swimming, bicycling, running, and so I wanted them to be fit, of course, and healthy. But I wanted those guys who would sit quietly in the background and they'd be doing Sudoku. If you don't know what Sudoku is, it's mathematical, or it's not really mathematical, it's basic arithmetics, working out patterns. I wanted the guys who would do jigsaw puzzles, or the ladies. Let me not be misogynistic here, because the ladies can bring a great deal of experience and unique perspectives to the security world. Ladies will see things guys would never ever see. And in the same way, guys will see things that ladies would never see. So they're complementary. And this is an area where I think security industry in a lot of areas needs to exploit the wide range of skills and abilities that ladies can bring to the team. They have a unique way of looking at things and different perspectives. But these are the people you want, people who can solve problems, who can sit patiently and work through problems. I'm not talking now about reconnaissance troops who do the same thing, but in the most difficult conditions. That's where you do want people who are a little bit more robust and physical, but also cerebral. But we're looking at office-based, and we're looking at slightly field-based, depending on your security work. And then, of course, we're looking at a completely different military environment. So an interest in keeping up to date with new technology. We can talk about that shortly. But basically, generalizing. You need to be a generalist, and you need to also be a specialist. And you can be both. You can be a specialist in 2 or 3 different areas, but then you need to also be a generalist in a wide range of areas, or know where to find information. And one of the things is of vital importance now to security people is the ability to be able to sit at a computer attached to the World Wide Web and know where you can find lots and lots of information to assist you. OSINT, it's called. OSINT, Open Source Intelligence.
You've hit it on the nail, and you've covered a lot of things there. It's about people creating niche business. One of the things I said in one of the trainings I did on entrepreneur security, entrepreneur security, and I talked about people specializing on doors, saying, okay, these are the kind of doors you could have in your house. In a place where there are problems with burglary and armed robbery, you could actually create a niche market for yourself to look at what kind of doors could people have in their houses. You could create VIP security and just create a market for just VIP security. People that want to take their children to school, you could actually look at school trips and advise people on that, or you could look at travel security, which is one of the areas that we are looking at in TRAZ. But more importantly, you could say, you know what, I want to look at panic rooms, how to create panic rooms. So there's so many areas of security. We talked about women now, and the fact that there's a lot of safety and security issues on women, and we in TRAZ are looking into that area. You could decide to just specialize on women's security, safety and security, and you'll be known in that market that is what you do. So I wanted to ask you about currently, how has the demand for security services evolved over the past few years? What does this mean for new security outfit? Because in the olden days, 10, 20, 30 years ago, the kind of security was the one you described, which was one in which people where they think you wear a waistcoat and have a vernacular that you're looking into somebody's house and looking at spies. But nowadays, we're talking about drones, we're talking about cybersecurity, we're talking about, dark web, we're talking about. So how has that change happened, and what would be your advice to people now?
Now, I think areas where security people need to be familiar, and depends on their role, of course, would be looking at the corporate world. Okay. Risk and crisis management is now a huge industry, absolutely huge industry, risk and crisis management. And I would add into that one, and it's different, people sometimes don't realize, resilience. So you could say, as a security consultant or security company, I'm going to focus on risk, resilience, and crisis management. Is one area. You could focus on different areas to give training in. If there is a requirement and it's legal, you could say, I'm going to teach people how to use firearms and all the implications of firearms, for example, not only, shooting down a range, but the legality of it, what you can and what you can't do, and so on and so forth. So you would need to be certified as a firearms instructor. And I've noticed some courses on the internet, and when I'm looking at them, they make me smile. And they say, come and do a 2-day course, and you're going to be, a cross between Rambo and the Terminator and Hulk Hogan and so on. Let me tell you, when I was doing a course in the military, to be an instructor to teach weapons, it's 8 weeks. And the people who are the students on this course, they do this for 8 weeks, are already familiar with all the weapons. But you are trained morning, noon, and night for 8 weeks, non-stop, giving lesson on the range. And then you think, well, that's Monday to Friday for the instructors. But at the weekend, the students are in those classrooms, rehearse. So everybody, when you, if you see a course and it says to you, we are going to make you a super sniper, and it just takes an hour. Okay, and then you'll be able to shoot a fly off a camel's back at 3,000 meters on a foggy day with the rain in your face. No. So you need to have a certain realistic attitude about the training and best practices, and whatever you might be training. I have a friend, he teaches all sorts of skills in this area. He does teach how to shoot. He teaches unarmed combat, surveillance, survival, all these sorts of things. It takes a lot of time. Okay, so we talked about weapons and equipment handling. You need to know how to use a phone. And you might say, oh yeah, it's here, yeah, pick it up, switch it on, blah, 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 blah. But then think about all the vulnerabilities of a phone. What can the phone do for me? Now you've got an app. My daughter's keen on it because she has 2 little girls and they go to school. And she said, well, a little bit later when they're older, she said, to take a phone, you can have an app so you can see where your kids are, for example. okay, and all that sort of thing. Other areas now in today's topsy-turvy world, counterterrorism. Counterterrorism is a big area. There's a law just come out in the UK. I don't live in the UK. And you probably tell I'm English, but I don't live there. Where if people are going to host an event, they are responsible for having anti-terrorist, counter-terrorism measures in place. So counter-terrorism, it could be what do we do if we've got a shooter in the building? How do we cope with this? And there's two different kinds of thought. There's the run, hide, tell, or run, hide, fight. Two different philosophies there. Okay, so counter-terrorism, but also it could be counter-intelligence with industrial espionage. You may be able to advise people on how to combat industrial espionage to protect all their research and development from those people who want to steal it so they can sell it. So that's another area where you could go. You could be called upon if you're a sort of person who loves delving into the world of geopolitics. You could become an expert in regional security issues and advise people on different things that are going on, not only in your own country but bordering countries. Or you may go global and be called upon to go to conferences and so on and so forth. So if you're a person with that particular mindset, again, looking at more cerebral side of life, from a security point of view, you could be a person who studied the law. You know lots about the law, and this is your thing. You know, you want to know all the different nuances on this legislation, that legislation. So and the ethical implications that are involved. So you may be a security, part of your security business could be, we can come and talk you through legal and ethical topics. And also from a security point of view, whenever I was teaching, you'll always see somebody will say, I'm going to lecture on health and safety. There you go, health and safety. And we'll talk about health and safety and so on and so forth. But I said, well, this isn't enough. What we need to do is talk about health, safety, and security. Okay, I would always put those three elements together into the pot and talk about them. You may be involved with physical security, how to make your house safe and secure. And of course, you don't want to make your house a prison because you have to live there, but you'll be surprised at the legal things you can do to make your house so unattractive to burglars, whilst at the same time looking a very attractive place to live. But simple things that we can teach which would deter burglars and at the same time enhance the environment you live in. Simple things you can do. And people will sometimes think, well, I never ever thought about that. And then, of course, taking it a stage further as you develop these skills, I'm trying to think of the acronym now, but it's where when you're planning buildings, you make them so that security-wise, they're mutually supporting. So there is no areas which can't be overlooked. Because one thing that vandals, hooligans, burglars, kids up to mischief and so on, even those with more sinister things in mind, is they want to be able to operate in an environment where they can't be seen. But by the simple angling of buildings and so on and so forth, it makes that environment hostile for them. So all these different sort of things that you can study and find an area that you can really go to town on and, of course, make a living from.
Thank you so much. And I think you hit it on the nail because, as you were speaking, my head was just buzzing. And if you're watching me right now, you need to like this page. You need to share this page. Tell your friends that we're live. You mentioned things about conferences. You could decide to specialize on West Africa security or East African security. And by the time you write 1, 2, 3 articles and you know your area, you know the local government. I'll give a classic example. I was on TV yesterday talking about a new terrorist group that was discovered in Nigeria. And that was an area where I went to school. I wrote on it. I quickly put an article together on it. But not only have I done that, but now I've even written an ebook on it. I spent the whole night putting together an ebook, which we're going to send to businesses in that area. By the time you start writing an article, you find out about the organization, write about it, read about it in the morning, read about it at night. What makes you a security expert is the fact that you wake up in the morning, you think about that subject area. In the afternoon, you are reading an article about it because you're not an ocean. You're not just an island on your own. There are people that have written things about that subject area. You go to bed at night talking about the same thing. You then become an subject matter expert that people could wake you up in the middle of the night and you could talk about that area, without needing to read a book. And once you are in that kind of position, people will call you in the US, in America. Even you could be called into the US Senate to talk about the security situation in Nigeria, to talk about the ungoverned spaces in Kebbi State or in Kenya, about protest in Africa. How is protest happening? What kind of protest is happening? Why are protests happening? What kind of court implication does that have? We are writing on that already. But what I'm trying to say is you could even write articles, security articles, and you could be writing for 3, 4 magazines on security and earning your money. You could write for journals and earn your money. So there's so many things you could do. You could even write security books. You could start writing books for children, security books for children. Don't talk to strangers. Guides for parents on the use of mobile phones. You could do your research on it, look at it yourself, become a specialist on kids using mobile phones. And everywhere around the world, you look at how is mobile phone being used in UK? How is mobile phone being used in America? How is it being used in South Africa? So that you become a subject matter expert on the use of mobile phone and future use of mobile phone. Now you could say, the level at which we're going in 10 years' time, there might not be anything called mobile phone, but it might just be something in the palm of your hand that you just touch your palm and then the whole thing open up and in the sky you could start touching. I used to remember watching a movie, I think this will give away my age, Space 1999.
Oh, yes.
Space 1999 talks about, going you go energize and going into a pod and they'll be able to tell you what is wrong with you, in terms of where the injury is in your body. I'm quite sure that a lot of people had that imagination, and some engineers out there actualize that imagination, and we're going into space now. And people looked into it. There was a walkie-talkie in there where they were talking about. They talk to each other, and now we have a phone. We have walkie-talkies that work, satellite phones that work across the world. So somebody imagine those things, and people are coming up with those ideas. So it just shows you the power of imagination and the fact that there's a lot we could do. Now, what specific skills or certification do you believe are essential for young people interested in the security industry?
The skills, while you were speaking, I was remembering Space 1999. Okay. Skills for the people. If we look at some general skills that you will need to have, and then of course you can burst off onto tangents and go specialist, but you really need to be, well, for everybody in this day and age, computer literate.
Go on.
You also need to keep up to date with the developments that are happening in the technological world.
Definitely.
being able to drive, I think, is a prerequisite because you'll never know when you'll be called upon to do that. So not just being able to drive, everybody, but being able to professionally drive. Okay. For example, army people, we never, ever, ever just drive into a parking space and stop. We reverse into a parking space so that if we need to quickly get away or react to something, we don't have to faff about reversing and being a ballerina in a car trying to get away. We can just jump in the car and poof, we're facing the right direction and off we go. It's a simple thing, but how many people?
That is a skill that you just taught my listeners now about, safety in a space. That is brilliant, because a lot of people do not know they park their cars in odd places and then they come back, they can't move their car again. You put, even if you enter your house, you need to know the makeup of your house if you live alone to know if things have moved around. And that's what security people do. They put, a shoe by the door, they put something so that at the end of the day, when somebody comes in and move those shoes or kick it, oh, somebody has entered into this environment. Go ahead, sir.
It's good that you mentioned that, Temi, because I believe next week, I think the subject we're talking about, if memory serves, is I'll use the expression, an Englishman's home is his castle. And it's how to be safe at home and beyond the home. So I do believe that's a subject where it's either next week or the week after. But we'll be looking about safety in the home and outside the home, things for people to be aware of. So driving professionally, if there is a need for you to be able to, and it's legal, have a weapon. Weapons training, not only being able to strip the thing down, clean it, reassemble it, but when you press the trigger, the bullet goes where you think it's going to go, and or the legal aspects of that you need to be aware of. But I will say situational awareness is critical. Professional driving, situational awareness, being computer literate, staying up to date with the latest trends, and this must surprise some of you, I often watch, though I can tell the difference, the crime shows on TV. I mean, the factual crime shows, the ones where they're dealing with forensics and so on, because one, they're entertaining to some degree. And you need to be able to sort out the wheat from the chaff. And you think that's totally ridiculous. That's just there for entertainment purposes. But it is a good way to learn about things that have worked. More importantly, things that haven't worked. So those are areas I would suggest. Just to go back to those people who might be thinking, well, I want to be involved in physical security. I'm quite happy to be doing checks around the building and so on and so forth, or being on the gate and checking the goods coming in. So an awareness of dangerous goods, for example, depends what your role is. But if you're one of these people who is going to do patrolling and so on, physical fitness, being able to fight, to protect yourself, and knowing when you have to stop. This is the difference between with policemen and military people. Policemen have a minimum use of force, and military people are taught maximum use of force. They're two completely different philosophies. So you need to be aware of that. And if, of course, you're one of these guys or even ladies nowadays who were walking around with a very aggressive dog on a leash, what are the implications of letting the dog off the leash, and so on and so forth? But again, the interesting thing is, if you're called in to look at physical security for a site, where do I put the cameras? Where do I have the fences? What sort of locks? Where do I have lights for spots that aren't well illuminated? All these things you have to think about. So it's being curious, being inquisitive, logical and lateral thinking.
Thank you so much. And I'm quite happy when you mentioned about, watching a crime investigation on TV. Thank God we have TVs now that you could watch a lot of those programs. And I know I've had a lot of successful broadcasters talking about spending hours watching their preferred mentors. We call them e-mentors, watching them from afar, the way in which they read the news, the way they compose their body. So if you want to become a good investigator, watch crime scene investigation, watch all these crime stories, and watch and see the good, the bad, and the ugly of those programs. And those are skills that you learn. Have the skills to investigate, eye for detail, very, very important. What are some of the emerging trends of technology or technology in security that will shape future job opportunities from your view? Because we now have cybersecurity, we now have AI. How do you think this will change the job? And we are getting to the last 5 minutes of this interview.
Okay. One of the recent, it suddenly boom exploded into the world stage. Actually, was the Israelis who started using drones for military purposes. Is the use of drones. Drone technology now is so sophisticated. I'm not talking about the weaponized drones, of course, but now when it comes to search and rescue in the very hostile environments in the UK, I'm not talking, when I say hostile, that there's hordes of terrorists behind every bush and every tree. I'm talking about a hostile environment where it's precarious to walk. It's cliffs, sheer cliffs. The climate can change. Suddenly people die of exposure there. But when somebody's lost, the drone technology now, it can search a wide area with its sensors, infrared, for example, pick up body heat, and so on and so forth. So drone technology is a thing you really need to be up to speed on, and how to use a drone. Of course, in some countries, drones aren't allowed. So drone technology, the use of open source intelligence like Google Maps, for example, Street View, and so on and so forth, is a useful tool. AI is it's knocking at the door, and the beauty of AI is we're not talking now where what they call the singularity, where it's got a consciousness, it's alive, but we're just talking about very sophisticated tools that can do a lot of research for you in a short space of time, and then you can make it your own by personalizing it with your experience. There's one for you, everybody. This may surprise you. It shouldn't. Social media. How can you exploit social media? You will be amazed at the information that people give away on social media. You look at people's Facebook pages, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever they have, I don't know. And there's so much information that they leave a digital trail for all sorts of things. So being able to exploit social media to find out, again, open source intelligence is a very useful thing to learn about. And you will find, if you go down that road, that when you go on social media, you will be posting less and less and less, so you can't be exploited in any way. So it's a double-edged weapon.
Okay. How do you, and this is my final question, how do you see the role of security outfit changing in the next decade? We now see that the Israelis have taught us that we don't need to actually buy planes of millions of dollars, we could actually just fly. Iranians have shown us you could fly thousands of drones across territories to go and hit a target, precisely to an address, precisely to a location within a house. That's how you could navigate it. It doesn't need a pilot, it doesn't need anybody. It could fly itself in. The technology is there right now. How will security change in the next 10 years? And what would be your advice to our viewers who are still in work? Maybe they're just 30, they're just 40, they're looking at doing another 10, 15 years where they're working. You're saying to them, start to develop your skill set so that when you retire and you're still active, you don't become redundant because you don't have skills, you have old skills.
Yeah. I'm going to answer this from a military point of view,
Okay.
Temi. That's the way my mind works. It drives my wife crazy, by the way, everybody. Okay. But from a military point of view, in the military, there are those people who are enamored by technology. This machine can do this, and this machine can do that, and we've got all these wonderful machines, so we don't need soldiers anymore. It was a huge mistake. Technology is a tool, and it can do lots and lots of things. And as I said before, you need to be computer savvy. You need to be technologically aware. But in the military, and of course, a lot of politicians still haven't learned the lessons from the past. But what do we need? What they call boots on the ground, which is soldiers on the ground. And of course, those soldiers are becoming more and more sophisticated. But at the end of the day, you need to have people on the ground who are situationally aware, inquisitive, curious, and all that goes with it. So don't forget the human side of life and your people who are manning gates, patrolling the building or the perimeter, and all the skill sets that you want them to have, because they will still be needed 200 years from now. You can have cameras and everything else, but really you need to have a foot in that camp and also have a foot in the technological camp. So you need to be aware of both of those different aspects. I think Temi will be with us in a second. He's just disappeared slightly. Oh, there you are, Temi. You were just been abducted by aliens, I think.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, Mr. Roland, and thank you for all those people watching us. Please let us know where you're watching for. This is our last section, last few minutes, and Mr. Roland, of course, have highlighted the beauty of security and what a project will be happening in the next 5-10 years. We know drone technology is going to be relevant. We know AI is coming in. We know cyber security is going to be important. So if you're a young person watching us right now, you're thinking, I don't have millions or thousands of pounds or even hundreds of pounds to start my own business. We've already explained that you could start your business with zero budget, but you need relevant skills. You need eye for detail. You need teamwork skills. You need ability to read and write. You need the ability to work with people, to enter into contracts. So there are trainings out there, free trainings that you could do. And TRAZ, Intelligence and Security Solution Limited is here, to provide unique, niche training. If you need those training and if you need advice, you can always come to us, with regards to any information that you need about how to move things forward. Our email details are there on the screen, strolling underneath. Thank you so much for watching. But you will do me a favor, please. I want you to like this page. I want you to also share it so that people that have not started from beginning can watch, because this could be a lifesaver for somebody who is out there and thinking, I'm frustrated, I don't know what to do. Tell your friends about us and also share this widely. From me, it's goodbye for now. Let's see you again this time around 3 p.m. next week. God bless you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Take care. Stay safe.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.